actually today on Friday, and there was a lot of reviews being dropped earlier in this week. Moving on to the next thing for this week. What is Project Resistance? Resistance, of course, referring to not the late, what was that series? Insomniac? Yeah, Insomniac did Resistance series. It is, in fact, a new Resident Evil game. Now, Project Resistance is set in the Resident Evil universe, particularly around Resident Evil 2, which was just rebooted this last year. To great critical acclaim, might I add. And so Project Resistance being teased now here is a 4-player multiplayer game, very different from your typical horror game, but it looks like it's the 4v1 sort of setup we've seen in games like Evolve, in games like Friday the 13th, where you have people coming in and playing the game as the survivors, and then you also have one person who's in charge of in the Resident Evil game here. It looks like they're in charge of a lot of different things, actually. The player who is basically the one on their own against everyone else can control the zombies. They can control Mr. I can't remember what the guy's name is. Mr. T? That doesn't sound right to me. Isn't he Professor T or something? I don't know. Not the guy who's famous in the 80s. So it looks like it's pretty robust in that manner, in that respect. But at the same time, I'm not really sure how deep it's going to be overall. Is it going to be lopsided on one side? It looks interesting. It looks like a weird concept, kind of an offshoot of the Resident Evil series, obviously. And the last few have been so good. Resident Evil 7, the first-person phenomenon. Resident Evil 2 being this crazy new remake that totally just builds it from the ground up and makes it a modern experience as if it were a brand new game. It's crazy to me that even exists, and yet here we are. And then we get this game, this weird multiplayer, kind of bizarre fighting against each other 4v1 setup. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's good. Maybe it'll be quite enjoyable, actually. We'll have to see. But in the meantime, you can look up the trailer for sure, and it definitely looks interesting, and I would recommend watching the trailer. It's about 2 minutes. You could just find it on YouTube. In any case, moving on to the next news item. There was something going on this week that I just wanted to note here while we're moving forward. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time here, but the X versus Cross debate that I was seeing on social media. Now, it seems like people were confused because Sony released